through to the table, whereas we say no, you can't do that. You can't have anything before you've made kiddush. Um, then we also saw this idea of having something under the bread and over the bread, wrapping it like a manna. It's either the tablecloth or the challah board that goes under, and then the challah cover that goes over. And also the idea of not embarrassing the bread, that you make kiddush over a full cup and over a cup that is not pagum. Now, what does it mean that it's pagum?
Unfit for ritual use.
Yes, but that's it maybe in general, but here in particular, what does it mean that it's pagum?
The needles machine.
Yes.
It's that.
Oh,
The end.
okay. Got it. It should be playing the other ones, but if it's not, then you can take out the Lego or the blocks or something. Come
I'll
bring
put
it down.
it back on.
Cool.
Does that help
So,
you?
so pagum in this context means when the cup was already drunk from. If somebody's already drunk from the cup, then it's pagum. You shouldn't make kiddush from a cup you've already drunk from. So the straightforward case is like this: we're all sitting around drinking, and then somebody says, "Oh, time for shul." So fine, I stop in the middle of my glass of wine, go to shul, come back, and say, "Oh, well, I've got this cup of kiddush here, a cup of wine here. I'll just use that for kiddush." But I've already been drinking from it. So no, it's got to be a new cup of wine. That's the idea. Then he says, of course,
So I mean, I can find this. Okay, this Friday night, so we pass a couple around, and
yes.
obviously the person who said the Kiddush, are they doing a minhag today? Is it a minhag issue or is it just like?
Good question. We're going to cover that tonight. So hold that question and we'll deal with it properly in the context. But that's exactly the kind of question we're going to be dealing with. Now, the Ramor says you can stand for Kiddush, but it's better to sit. And the custom is to sit all the way from Vayachulu. We just stand at the beginning and then sit as soon as we've gotten going. That's how he describes it. But the Mishnah Brura says, well, the reason that some stand is because this is like giving testimony that Hashem created the world. And, the reason that they sit is because then we are all sitting together to make Kiddush together. Everyone agrees you need to be convened together for one kiddush to work for the others. And the question is how convened is convened? Is it enough that we're standing around together, or must it be that we're actually sitting around the table together? And those who have the custom of sitting for kiddush, that's where it comes from. Okay, now the South African custom that we've seen is standing. Was that what you were going to look up, Jeff, or was it something else? That's right. There's Vayir. Yes. How can we say a half a pasuk? How can we say half a pasuk? Yeah. So maybe, Evan, this will be your homework. So where does this come from? And we've got a custom of standing. Because that's pretty much universal in South Africa. I mean, who stands?
Is it a Lithuanian custom?
I don't know if it's a Lithuanian custom. A lot of the South African customs are the Lithuanian.
Same one.
Oh, goodness gracious. Then we're just going to have to do Lego or blocks or something like that.
It's a different one.
I can't, Masudi. I'm giving my shiva now.
A lot of people stand for the first half and says,
I'll find you the
I
next
don't
one.
mind watching that again.
Okay, so you choose.
I'll find you the next
Thank you, Thea. Sorry, Prof?
in recent years, a lot of people have stood for the first half and sat down after break.
Yes, after Brad Gaffin, I understand, but that's not what they're talking about here.
Yeah, they still do something.
No, sorry, sitting down after Brad Gaffin. Oh, no, I haven't seen that either.
And drinking when they sit.
Sitting for drinking, I've seen, but sitting for, the Brucha of Shekishan Mitzavra Savanu Vishabat Kocho Bavavra Sonin Chaltanu. I haven't seen that, but that's what the Shulchan Aruch describes. And that's basically, yeah. And the Ramor describes that as well. Yeah, the Ramor describes it. Standing for the first bit and then sitting for the second bit. He also describes sitting for the whole thing. But it seems that there are three ways you could do it, right? So the first one, the simple reading of the Shulchan Aruch is that you stand for the whole thing. Then the Ramor says, stand for the first half and sit for the second half. But then he says, but the Ashkenazi custom is that we sit for the whole thing. So we seem to do it like the straightforward, like Rabbi Yosef Karo, stand for the whole thing. Yeah, so that's the question. I was looking to see if they've got notes over here. Number 55. No, after going into this point. Okay. And then we saw that you start with Vayhi Erev Vayhi Voker. We say, that's what it is. We say Vayhi Erev Voker quietly because we don't want to say half a pasuk. We want to start out loud from Yom HaShishi Vaychulu HaShemayim because that starts from that either first letter of each of those words. Yom HaShishi Vaychulu HaShemayim Yud Hey Vav and Hey. So you've got Hashem's name, and then you go on to Vaychulu HaShemayim Va'aretz. That when you start Kiddush, the other point was when you start Kiddush, you look at the candles, and at the time of Kiddush, you look at the cup of wine itself. Now, that was where we left off last time, and now let's go into some of the new points. So he says, if you only have one glass of wine, you only have a little bit of wine. How's it come on to you? If you only have a little bit of wine, you make Kiddush on that cup of wine. However, you don't drink from it, from that cup, because then you have a pagum cup, then you have a cup from which we've drunk. So what you do then is you only got exactly enough for one glass of wine, basically. So you make Kiddush on that glass of wine, pour it out into something else, drink it from that something else, and then your cup of wine is still not pagum, it still hasn't been drunk from. And what you do is the next day, you're going to make Kiddush on it again and drink from it. So you're able to use that cup for Friday night and for Shabbos day. However, if you've got even less than that, you've got the minimum amount, Rivi'it, it's called it 90 mils. You've got the minimum amount for Kiddush. So if you pour out any of that, then you haven't got enough for the next day. So then what you do is you drink it on that Friday night. You take a kind of little sip on the Friday night, pour it out, have a sip on the Friday night. Then you add a little bit of water for the next day. So that's the next thing that we're going to see, is that there is some leeway for watering down your wine. Whether this applies to grape juice as well, we're going to come back to that when we discuss grape juice for Kiddush more generally. But there is this idea of watering down your wine a little bit. As long as it's still like 90% wine, then that's still fine. The concern comes in when you water it down too much, that it stops having the status of wine. But basically, if you water it down a bit, it's fine. So if you're running short on wine, you can top it up with a little bit of water to make sure that you have the right amount. However, he says this is all speaking when you have enough for Havdalah as well. But you really need three glasses of wine for Shabbos. You need one for Friday night Kiddush, one for Shabbos day Kiddush, and one for Havdalah. So what do you do when you don't have enough? Let's say you've only got two or something like that. So he says, then you'll make Kiddush Friday night on cup number 1, Havdalah on cup number 2, and during the day, either you won't make Kiddush or you'll make Kiddush on one of the other drinks that you can have. And we're going to speak in a little while about what those other drinks are. But in other words, in the hierarchy, number 1, most important, Kiddush Friday night. Number 2, most important, Havdalah. Number 3, most important, Kiddush Shabbat day.
Is Havdalah when you're closing Shabbos on Saturday night?
Exactly. Now, after making Kiddush, wash your hands and say, Al Nitilat Yadayim. This is how the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo is saying it. If you washed your hands before Kiddush, then you can't make Kiddush on wine. Why? Because you've now washed for bread. So now you've got to make Kiddush on bread. Now that's a point I think we've mentioned in the past, but I'll just mention it again, that your 2 options for Friday night are bread or wine. Best, it seems, is to make on wine. But if you don't make on wine, we'll see later on, for example, somebody took a vow not to drink wine. One of Rav Kook's famous students, the Nazir of Yerushalayim, Rabbi David Cohen, not the same as our David Cohen, but the Nazir of Yerushalayim. So he took a vow not to drink wine, not to cut his hair, and he also didn't eat meat. Yeah, but a normal Nazir can eat meat. Is it? Yeah.
What does the word Nazir mean?
It doesn't really have a translation. Nazirite. I mean, it's a halachic status of somebody's taken a vow not to drink wine or eat grapes, not to have contact with the dead, like go to a cemetery, and not to cut his hair.
To did he eat fish and eggs?
I don't know.
Dairy?
I don't know. We could ask Mickey Glass because Mickey Glass knew his son very well. Rabbi Shari Yeshub Cohen. Now, so Rabbi David Cohen, so what did he do for Kiddush on Friday night? Basically, the answer is he would make Kiddush on bread because he couldn't have one.
But you could have grape juice.
No. So that's what we're going to see. No, Nazir can't have grapes. Nazir can't even eat grapes.
Speaking of grapes,
Nazir can't even eat raisins. Yeah.
and no alcohol, obviously.
No, you can't have other alcohol.
Could have the beer.
Yes, but not for Friday night Kiddush.
Or what about, can he have other fruit?
Yes.
Okay.
But doesn't it say that beer, if it's an acceptable drink,
Not for Friday night Kiddush. So we're going to come to that. But Friday night Kiddush, you only got two options. Borei Pragafen,
Bread
which
or
we're going to call wine for now, and Hamotzi Lechem and Aretz, bread. Yeah, those are your options. Going to see times when you've got others, but not for Friday night. So, the Shulchan Aruch says, if you washed before Kiddush, then you can't make Kiddush on wine anymore. You've already washed. So then make Kiddush on bread. The way that he puts it is he says, you have demonstrated that you prefer bread. In other words, it's a declaration that you're making Kiddush on bread. Okay. The Ramor says, go a little bit further and we'll take questions. The Ramor says, actually, some say it's better to wash first and then make Kiddush. Now, that's the German custom, right? He says it's better to wash first. It's not considered a hefsek, it's not a break, right? We say between washing and making hamotzi, you mustn't like do things that are not connected to them. This is not disconnected from the hamotzi. You can't eat your bread until you make Kiddush. So you wash, you make Kiddush, and then you make hamotzi. It's certainly a more efficient way to run a meal, which is why maybe that's the German custom. But he says that's the way. And then he continues, "V'chein haminag pashut b'medinot elu, v'ein leshanot." And this is our Ashkenazi custom, and you must not change it. Okay? So two things that we've seen. That we follow the Shulchan Aruch, the Sephardi opinion, not the Ramor, the Ashkenazi opinion. Now, how does this work? The Mishna Brura adds right over here. However, many Achronim, many other halachic authorities wrote that it is better first to make Kiddush and then to wash your hands, like the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch, because here you fulfill all of the opinions. And in many places, that was the established custom. So when the Ramor says this is the custom, many of the authorities say, no, it's not true. Custom is not widespread in the way the Ramor puts it.
Are you not
One second. Nevertheless, he says, if you did already wash your hands, so it's fine. So you can still make Kiddush on wine. In other words, once you washed your hands, so then you can choose to follow what we're going to call the German custom, what the Ramor would call the Ashkenazi custom, I guess is the German, right? What the Ramor would call the Ashkenazi custom. You can still make Kiddush if you wash your hands. But, says the Mishnah Brura, it seems the ideal actually is that we first make Kiddush and then wash our hands afterwards. But there's different opinions on this.
Is it not the way that whatever prayer you're going to say, especially before you're going to put something in your mouth, that you have to wash your hands? It's almost like sacred, that you have to be clean.
So there's two different things. Yes, well, there's two different things. The one is cleanliness, and the other one is what I'm going to call the ritual hand washing. Cleanliness should be, it depends how dirty, but let's say you've been painting and you've got your hands full of paint. I don't think that's a problem to say a bracha with paint on your hands, especially if it's dry. Right? I think that's a problem. Your hands might not be clean, but it's fine. If they've got like really filth, right? I mean, let's say Matthew Levy was right, spent the day dismantling toilets, and now he wants to go and eat something or wants to say a bracha. Yes, he would have to. He'd have to wash his hands for cleanliness. However, for the ritual hand washing, that's only for bread. Now, the next halacha is how much must you drink of that wine? Now, in everything, there's halachic measurements, right? So you've made Kiddush, you're going to drink some of the wine. How much must you drink of the wine? If you only take a tiny sip, that's not going to be enough. But you don't have to drink the whole glass. So what is the amount? The amount is... Nope. Cheekful, yes. The amount is a cheekful. How much is a cheekful?
Depending on the chick.
Yeah, pretty much. Right?
There really aren't any halachic measurements often.
Yeah.
Indications.
Yeah, folk measurements.
Folk measurements.
Yeah.
So they measure.
Mark Shapiro says that it's incorrect to try and put precise things on all these kind of things. The example that he gives is time for Shema. He says they never had time for Shema as 9:17. He said they never had such a thing. It was the time for Shema is 3 hours after sunrise, so within a few minutes, give or take, between 9 and 9:30 was kind of what it. Okay. But we do that. That's how it is today. I mean, with respect to Professor Shapiro and his academic scholarship, and I do really have respect, as you know. That's not what we do. We give precise measurements. So, but you're talking the majority of Ruvik. You're talking 40, 50 mils, right? But a cheekful. You drink a cheekful. Now, that's how much you should drink. However, what happens if I don't drink this? But you're all at my Shabbos table. I make kiddush, and then I pour. Let's say I give the whole glass to Evan, and Evan drinks a cheekful. Does that work? Is it that the one who makes kiddush has to do it, or is it good enough if someone does it?
The one who makes kiddush.
Try again.
No, it's good enough.
Correct. Yeah, excellent. Right? He says if he doesn't drink, but somebody else drinks that amount, that's sufficient. However, there's an argument of whether, if everyone would have a sip, and that would add up, I'm going to call it 50 mils just for ease. If everyone would have a sip, and that would add up to the 50 mils, there's an argument whether that works or not. So certainly if one person would have the 50 mils, you're good. But if everyone would have a little sip, and it adds up to 50 mils, we're not sure. So that's an argument. There is an opinion that the one making kiddush has to at least taste. Now, not everyone agrees with that, but says the Shulchan Aruch, it's appropriate to be concerned for that opinion, and therefore you should taste. One of the exceptions being Friday night. Now, Friday night's a good example. Coming back to your point, right? He makes kiddush, but he doesn't drink anything. Gives it to a child to drink, so the child drinks a cheekful, right? Or between the children, they drink a cheekful, according to the lenient opinion, and that's how you would do it. Any questions on that before we go further?
But can't you just, if you're going to say kiddush and not drink the wine, and someone else is at your table, and so that person is going to drink the wine, can't that person just say the kiddush and then also drink the wine?
Yeah, they can.
So just because it's your table, you don't have to say.
You don't have to, although you have the first right to. You have the right to. In other words, if you want to, let's say, I don't want to drink the wine, but I want to make kiddush. Well, it's my home. I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the blessing here is over the wine, not the drinking of wine.
Yes, correct.
Because the children wouldn't exempt you from it.
No, the children would. As long as they've reached the age of 6 or 7, then that does.
It's some people insist on making their own kiddush.
Yeah.
So you have the host make a kiddush and you have.
Now that's not a halachic requirement, as far as I understand. Everyone agrees that's not a halachic requirement. The question is that a nice to have, right? In other words, there's a concept. You shouldn't delegate mitzvot. You should. It's an attitude. In other words, it's an attitude, not a halachic. You shouldn't delegate mitzvot. You should want to do mitzvot yourself. Give you an example, right? So 4 months ago, Azrael's bris. So I had 2 options. Sarah Maisels, please do the bris. I can do it myself. So I don't know what I'm doing, but what difference does it make? No. So I asked Rabbi Maisels, and he said, yeah, it's fine. He'll tell me what to do. He guarantees me nothing will go wrong. Thank God, everything was fine. Showed me exactly what to do. So, right? So in that instance, now it's not for everyone, okay? I'm not, right? But in that instance, it's better to do the mitzvah yourself rather than delegating the mitzvah. So, same thing. It could be, halachically it can work, that when you get married, you don't have to show up to the chuppah. You can delegate someone the same way that most people would delegate the mohel to do the bris for them. You could delegate someone to be the groom, right? Or she could delegate someone to be the bride. You get proxy. Now, why don't we do that? Because it's more of a mitzvah to do it yourself.
You
right?
mean you can actually
Proxy.
put some other man there
Yes,
with your wife
that's right.
instead of you?
Correct.
But then can't he claim that I'm actually married to her?
Ah,
then?
so it depends on the words that he says. So if he says, I'm marrying you, she's got to say no. But if he says, through giving you this ring, you're married to Sam Thurgood, and then she accepts it, then that's how it works. That's why some people, I'll just make mention of this while we're on the topic, some rabbis, they'll say the words to the chatan under the chuppah. They coach him through. I like to say to my chatan, just practice the words and maybe take a piece of paper. I like it if he does it himself. I don't mind. But most weddings that I've seen, if the people didn't grow up religious or whatever, the rabbi will say, hooray, and he says, hooray, mukudesh, li, zukadat, Moshe Yisrael. I've done that a few times as well. What some of the rabbis do, and I've only seen it in Cape Town, is they don't say the word li to me. They say, hooray, you, mukudeshet are married. And someone else says li, like the chazan will say li. He says li, but no. So it's not like the rabbis proposing marriage.
What is Lee?
To me, me, yeah. So it's not. I mean, I asked Rabbi Liebenberg does this. So I asked Rabbi Liebenberg about it. I said, look, I never saw, and Rabbi Rov, I never did that. So he said, no, it's not really halachically necessary, but it's like an extra stringency or whatever. So I don't do that. But that's what some people do, and that's the reason why. So that it's quite clear that they aren't emissary of the that the husband isn't acting as the emissary of the rabbi, right? The husband's acting on his own accord.
But I've also seen it that many times they ask if there's any Kohen at the table.
Yes.
And then if there is, they offer, he makes the...
Yes. So that's a law in honoring the Kohen. So the law is that you should give honor to a Kohen, to bless first, it says, to speak first, so those kinds of things. So for example, to bless first would be like Birkat Hamazon or Kiddush. To speak first would be like you've got a whole Torah lineup of all different speakers, and one of them is a Kohen. The Kohen should go first. For example, those kinds of things. However, if there's a Kohen or a Talmid Chacham, or Torah scholar, then the Torah scholar should go before the Kohen. So for me, look, you could debate it, but at least I was given the status of a Torah scholar, right, whether I am or not. So therefore, for me, I mean, I won't look after a Kohen because they say that's actually against the honor of the Torah.
Yeah.
If you place the Kohen over the Torah scholar.
And one rabbi is before another rabbi.
Yes.
Well, Kohen is always first on the...
Correct.
Why is...
That Torah scholar rule doesn't apply there.
It does if he's the greatest Torah scholar of the generation. The greatest Torah scholar of the generation, even if he's Israel, you'll call him up in place of the Kohen. And there's ample precedent for that.
What's it? I remember doing that.
Yeah.
I don't remember this one.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. I saw it I learned in the Gemara. Yeah, you can, that's what you do.
Why is the Kohen always given this superiority, so to speak,
Yes.
above everybody else?
The Sefer HaChinuch says, one of the great commentaries in the 1400s, he says to emphasize for us the importance and holiness of the temple service. Because the Kohen was entrusted with the temple service, to show us how special the temple service is, he's given that special honor and status. Good, let's go a little bit further. So now he says, okay, so ideally, you at least taste it. Somebody should have a cheekful of the wine. And if everyone has a cheekful of the wine, there are opinions that also works. So what I would say is, if it's for yourself, so try and make sure that somebody has a cheekful of the wine. But if you're going to other people, you don't have to correct them. If you got other people and you see everyone does is take a sip, it's fine. You don't have to go and educate them and say, oh, by the way, you really should, because there are opinions that's fine as well. Okay. Now, what if you make Kiddush, and I've seen this happen as well, make Kiddush, but before you drink the wine, before anyone drinks the wine, start speaking. Or even, let's say, before you start drinking, before you drink the wine. I make Kiddush, and now I'm busy pouring the wine, and I start chatting about the weather. So now, before I drink, I need to say Borei Pri Hagafen again. I don't need to say Kiddush again, I need to say Borei Pri Hagafen again, because now there was an interruption between my Borei Pri Hagafen and the drinking of the wine. And they say it's the same thing if I make Kiddush, and then I spill the wine, and I haven't got wine in the cup over which I made Kiddush. I don't need to make Kiddush again, pour a little more wine, and I need to say Borei Pri Hagafen before I drink the wine.
You
The
have...
exception to this is Havdalah.
When I say spilt, the wine's all gone.
No, when you say the bracha and you don't wine.
Yes.
And then you have other brachot.
Yes,
then you drink.
that's right. That's a famous question asked by the Trumat Hadeshen. Trumat Hadeshen, one of the great rabbis of the 1400s. And he gives a very difficult answer. He gives an answer. He gives a very difficult answer.
Do you have to actually swallow the wine?
Who's you? The one making Kiddush?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, there's putting it in the mouth,
Yes.
but you actually have to swallow.
So if you don't have to, in that if you don't, there's still opinions that it's fine, but it's preferred because there are opinions that you have to. Yeah. Okay. Now he says that you're in a situation where, and I would say what I would call the regular Kiddush situation. I made Kiddush. I'm now pouring for everyone else, and now we're all going to drink. The others should not drink before the one who made Kiddush. Should wait for him, because ultimately it's his Kiddush that you're drinking from. So you should wait for him to drink, and then you should drink. It's the same thing, by the way, with Hamotzi. Wait for him to eat, and then you eat. That's the general. If everyone starts with their own glass of wine, then they don't need to, and we're not, no. So then you can just drink your own glass of wine immediately. So that's another way to do it. That everyone has, especially this is we say you've got a family, that they all appreciate wine. So everyone has their own glass of wine, so they'll be drinking. So pour the wine before, make Kiddush. The one person makes Kiddush for everyone, and then everyone starts drinking their wine.
And the one who
That's-
makes Kiddush doesn't have to drink.
He would drink as well. Again, it's ideal that he does drink.
But if the wine was poured before Kiddush was said,
Yes.
and then just one person says Kiddush, shouldn't those people also say Kiddush on their own wine because it wasn't actually Kiddush said on that cup?
Seen. Okay. It's as long as heard Kiddush and that works. There is it? I'm just trying to think where it is in the Mishna Brura. No, that's a different thing. So that's fine. It seems to drink. Yeah, and then he says you don't. Yeah. Okay. So then he says, the way he does is that he pours into everyone's cup of wine. So that everyone can drink. Everyone can drink from a cup. What I do, I've made Kiddush. I pour into everyone's cup, then I drink, and then you all drink from those cups. Because that way, everyone's drinking from a cup that hasn't been drunk from.
That's an interruption.
Is that an interruption? It doesn't seem to be a problem of an interruption because I'm not engaged in some extraneous activities or yeah.
No, say Martin that's strong. I think it's quite what's that you have
To
hand
hand
around the cup.
around the cup. Now, yeah. Now, see, I would hand around. Don't worry, we're going to come back. I would say we don't. You came to ask me about this. Should you rather pour or should you rather hand around? It seems quite clear to me that you should rather pour. Everyone has their own cup, and that's what he's putting out over here. However, this is why I know reasons it's great to have these books. They bring in the notes over here that Ravnatan Karelitz. One of the great poskim says that that whole section is speaking about a situation like the one that we mentioned, where everyone is drinking from their own cups. So everyone has their own cup of wine. He's just pouring a little of his cup into their cups.
But I think you said empty.
No, that's what I thought, but he says no, that's not the case. We're talking about where everyone already has their own wine. Um, but